Prince Harry is coming home, but this time the return could come with a staggering price tag for British taxpayers. A figure of up to €5 million a year is now at the center of the growing security row involving Harry, Meghan, and their children. But here's the twist: Harry wants security. Taxpayers could potentially foot the bill. And Britain now faces a difficult question: should a prince who stepped away from the royal duties receive millions in public funded protection? And with Harry and Meghan reportedly preparing to spend far more time in Britain, this controversy may be about to get bigger. So, why could Harry's return create such a huge security bill? And who will ultimately pay for it? Subscribe to The Royal Celebrity and join us as we discuss this unfolding story. Watch to the end and make sure you give a comment. A dramatic new security row has erupted around Harry and Meghan Markle, with reports suggesting their return to Britain could require a major security operation. And now the question being asked is brutally simple: should British taxpayers pay millions to protect a prince who chose to step away from royal duties? For years, Prince Harry and Meghan have lived mainly in the United States after stepping back from their roles as working royals in 2020. But now, according to reports, the Sussex family could be preparing to spend significantly more time in Britain, and that creates a problem that cannot be simply ignored: security. Harry has repeatedly argued that he and his family needs protection when they come to the UK. His position is that Britain remains a place where he faces security risks. But after stepping away from royal duties, Harry no longer automatically receives the same level of police protection as senior working members of the royal family. Instead, security arrangements are assessed based on the level of risk. And that is where the story becomes explosive. The Daily Mail have reported that security for the Sussex family could potentially cost taxpayers up to €5 million a year. Just think about that number: 5 million every year. But again, this is not a confirmed bill. It's an estimate of what an extensive security operation could potentially cost. And that distinction is extremely important. The final security arrangement could depend on the threats assessment and the level of protection authorities decide is necessary. And even as a potential figure, €5 million has immediately triggered a debate, because millions of pounds of public money are involved. This is where opinions are sharply divided. Supporters of Harry argue that he is still the king's son. He has served in the British military. He remains the globally recognized figure. And if security experts believe that he, Meghan, and their children faces a genuine threat, they should be protected. But critics have a different question. They ask, if Harry and Meghan chose to leave royal duties and become financially independent, why should ordinary taxpayer pay millions for their security? That is the question that have been difficult to avoid. Harry chose a different life. He and Meghan moved to America. They built their own business and media projects. They stepped away from being working royals. Some people believe that private security should also be their responsibility. The situation is not necessarily as simple as Harry gets 5 million. Security does not work that way. Authorities can assess the threats and decide what level of protection is necessary. That could potentially mean limited protection rather than a permanent, full-scale security operation. And this is probably the most important part of the story. If Harry's circumstances changes because he is spending much more time in Britain, the security assessments could change too. His children could be living in Britain, the family could attend public events, Harry could travel around the country. The increased visibility could potentially create additional security concerns. So the authorities have a difficult balancing act: protect the family if there is a genuine threat, but also make sure the public money is being used responsibly. There is another emotional side of this story. Harry's return could bring him closer to his father, King Charles, and potentially close to his brother William. For the king, having his grandchildren closer to Britain could obviously be significant. But even if Charles wants Harry and his family to be safe, the king cannot simply decide how much police protection they receive. The decision has to go through the appropriate security processes. And that means this is not just a family matter anymore. It is also a question of public money, police resources, and national security. And what about William? The relationship has been strained for a long time. William is now preparing for his future as a king, while Harry has created a completely different life outside the working monarchy. Harry's return to Britain could potentially open the door for reconciliation, but it could also create a new tension, especially if the public believe taxpayers are being asked to finance the security arrangement for someone who is no longer a working royal. So perhaps the bigger question is not whether Harry should have security. Most of the people agree that there is a serious threat and he should be protected. The real question is how much security is actually necessary and who should pay for it. If experts determine that Harry, Meghan, and their children faces a serious threat, then protection may be completely justified. But if the cost reaches millions of pounds every year, taxpayers will understandably want answers. Why is this level of protection necessary? What are the threats that have been identified? And could less expenditure arrangements provide adequate protection? Those are legitimate questions. Harry's return to Britain was supposed to be about family. Perhaps his children growing up closer to their grandfather. Perhaps a chance for old wounds to heal. Perhaps a new chapter for Harry and the royal family. But instead, his return has opened a major controversies: security, money, and the question of who should carry the burden. The headline's figure is staggering: 5 million euros a year. But remember, that is potential estimate, not a confirmed taxpayer bill. The final decision will depend on the security assessments and the level of protection authorities believe is necessary. And that leaves Britain with one a very uncomfortable question. If Harry comes home as the king's son, but not as a working royal, should British taxpayers still be expected to pay millions to protect him? That is the debate now beginning. And it could become one of the biggest controversies surrounding Harry and Meghan's return to Britain. But what do you think? Should Harry receive taxpayer funded security if authorities believe he faces a serious threat? Or should he and Meghan pay for their own protection? Tell me what you think in the comment section and subscribe to The Royal Celebrity for more royal stories and analysis. See you in the next one.